Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining another episode of Tech in Motion. I am your host, Aaron Brooks, and today we will continue our Careers in IT series. So, joining us today, I have a good friend of mine, Mr. Mark Bayley. We'll get into what his current security expertise. So, he is a security professional. But we'll talk to him to understand how he got his start in IT, and what that journey was like, and kind of where he's at today. So, without further ado, Mark, how you doing, sir?
Good, good. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here and appreciate the invite. So,
Oh,
um,
anytime.
yeah,
All right. So, you want to just jump right in it? Did you want to start off, tell us a little bit about yourself,
yeah.
kind
So,
of where you're from? Where you grew up?
absolutely. So, I was born in Alabama. Lived there for a lot of my younger years. I moved around high school. I moved here to the Lee Summit area in Kansas City, and kind of graduated from Lee Summit North. Went in the Army for a couple of years. Did that for a little while. Came back and came back to Kansas City from there. So. And that was really kind of when I started to enter the workforce was about that time.
Okay. So interesting. So, grew up Alabama boy, moved here to, I guess, more of the Midwest, high school, and you said the Army, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, what did you do in the Army? Any
I
achievements
had
you
a
got there?
yeah, I had a couple of jobs really. I had my primary MOS. Well, it doesn't matter. By the time it was all said and done, when I got there, I was a 240 Bravo gunner and a 50 cal gunner. So
Oh,
that
wow.
wasn't
Okay.
really meant to be the job description, but kind of when I got there, that's the way things worked out. And that was kind of what I gravitated towards. I'd started off doing a little bit of intelligence. Went to Fort Huachuca for the advanced individual training. Moved into kind of logistics and didn't much care for it. So I was able to get an opportunity to go just do what I really wanted to do, and that was kind of be on the ground supporting the troops. So
Okay, awesome. So you got out of the Army, came back to the Kansas City area, and you said
hmm
that's when you entered the workforce. So did computers and technology kind of enter into your world at that point, or was it a little further
well,
on?
actually, I went in sales for a while. Like
Really?
most military people who didn't have much of a marketable skill. Yeah, I went into sales. I was okay at it. I held my own. I mean, paid the bills with it, but it really wasn't my interest. Really wasn't my long-term career interest. And I remember one day I worked for an ISP, and that's kind of when I started getting interested in learning about MPLS and learning about networking a little bit. Not to be a technical person, but just to be kind of a salesperson. And then I took a job in insurance, and oh my goodness, man, nothing against insurance people, valuable need, totally get that, but it's not for me, man. So I saw a video on YouTube. It was called "What Would You Do If Money Was No Object?" And the premise is real simple. If you got to spend your day 8 hours a day hustling doing something, what would you want that to be? And I was like, you know what? I really want to hack stuff. That's what I want to do. Like there's a job. There's people who get paid to do that. A good friend of mine, my first deployment, we were in Ramadi, and my good buddy of mine was talking about some of the stuff he was getting into. Now he was an ELINT guy, it's electronic intelligence guy, and he'd been kind of learning penetration testing and stuff like that.
Okay.
And he kind of told me about it, and I was kind of fascinated at the time, but it wasn't until years later when that seed really began to kind of bloom, I guess. So talked to the missus at the time and said, hey, I really want to go to, I want to go to school for this. So I kind of looked backwards and said, okay, how do I get there? I need to learn Linux. I need to learn networking. Probably need to, kind of learn a lot of these different things. Where do I start? So from there, I kind of worked backwards and said, I probably need to start with just a help desk job. And that's a good place to start. So I started looking for anything technology really. And my first job was actually fixing printers at H&R Block, just repairing fusers and stuff like that. I mean, it was a real low level job. It was seasonal.
Right.
But I got my foot in the door and kind of learned a little bit of the lingo, and it wasn't much, but when you fix printers, you got to do a little bit of networking, real basic stuff, but it was enough to kind of start. And then I went to work for a small business. Did that for a little while and just kind of grew from there. So that kind of
Yeah.
checked that first box of growing. So
No,
yeah.
absolutely. And I think that's important for for a targeted audience, right? Maybe those who are in high school or almost finishing college or in college, not sure what to study, right? And maybe
Yeah.
they're just looking to say, how this is another career or industry I want to get into. What do I need to do? And I think the fact that you took the time to really take the time, right? Sit down, figure out exactly what it is you
Yeah.
want to do. You decided that you need to do your research, right? So you realize that you need to learn a little bit about networking. You have to figure out what is this Linux thing, right? What is an operating system?
Yeah.
Um, and then you said, well, you know, you felt the best way to begin that journey was with a help desk, and you went for it. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like really, in today's internet age and everything needs to be figured out in a second, you know what I mean? I just love the fact that you shared with us that, it is a process, it is a journey trying to figure out what direction you want to go in. Um, using your resources, people, internet, YouTube, whatever, right? To make out the best plan for yourself and you execute it, right? So that's huge. And I just want to point that out and I obviously commend you for it because you stayed on the path and you're doing it. And we'll probably get
Yeah.
to some of your stick to itness here in a bit, but just thought that was a key point to point out, to those who are watching, in particular the younger folks. So
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that. So I do a little teaching on the side, and I get a lot of students that say, "Hey, I want to be a pen tester. I want to work as an incident response engineer, or whatever." I bet you do. I'm sure you do. But you do have to start somewhere. And people say, "Oh, how do I get a security job?" Well, to get a security job, you get a non-security job first.
yeah,
I think that's missed a lot, and a lot of the people. So as my job is kind of director of security now, I do a lot of the hiring for our team and a lot of recruiting. And a lot of the people that I bring in are not 20-year professionals. I mean, they're people who are maybe a couple of years in help desk, or maybe they got a year or two of network engineer under their belt. And
right,
it's learning how to think securely. But honestly, all security is basically really good systems administrators or really good engineers with a little different mindset. When you get down to it, I mean, if you deploy a security tool or solution, it's not that much different than a server engineer deploying a server tool or solution. Really,
mhm,
they just have a different mindset.
right. It's just another application till you get into the details of configuration, policies, procedures. What it is you need to protect. Um, So
Yeah.
yeah, so you like you said, you definitely have to think a certain way, right?
You
Um,
you do, and
but
you can't shy away from those help desk years. You can't shy away from that stuff, because building that base, understanding how DNS and Active Directory and a whole bunch of stuff, that technical stuff that I don't want to don't want to get in the weeds with it, but having a good understanding of how those works, or how do you even pop up a new machine if somebody new starts, like. When you learn those things, you can kind of learn like how to exploit them down the road, or how they could be exploited down the road. So you start learning how to kind of protect them. But really, really important is that cannot overstate this. The people say, "Hey, I want to be a security engineer." You really need to be a help desk person first. So
gotcha. And yeah, and I think that pretty much covers it. So if I say where could you be a help desk? But yeah, help desk is help desk, man. Hey, you got networking, you got Windows computers you need to get on board. You got
yeah.
people who can't remember their password every week.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You like you said, and it's a great point. You get it all. So okay, so fast forward past the help desk, and yeah, so we're down a security journey. You did the help desk piece, and then what was next after that? And real quick, how long did you do help desk? When you
So yeah, I did it for probably, I would say, a year or two before I got my first real legitimate engineering job, and that was at Cerner.
right?
We'd worked together, yeah.
Yeah,
Along the same time, I had been I used the GI Bill to go to college, so I got a degree, a bachelor's in business, and then a bachelor's in IT. So I'd kind of been doing those in the background for some time, and it took, I think, about 3 years to get those two. I mean, I really was constantly driving, and worked a lot, studied a lot. I was very fortunate to have an extremely supportive wife and kids who were very, very helpful.
right.
And I don't know that I would recommend that for somebody else to try to do it that quickly, but I mean, I really wanted to hack. So that's kind of where that drive came from. And you know, I had a lot of kids young, real young. They were I was a teenager and a teenage dad, and that really kind of built a motor in me. So it took a couple of years, couple certifications along the road. I would say after about 2 years of help desk and kind of a quasi engineering at this small to medium business, I was kind of a jack of all trades, and that really kind of prepared me for the next role as engineer there at Cerner. So then I was there at Cerner for about 2 years, a little less than 2 years, and then kind of moved on to another Linux engineering job. And at that point, I was very focused on Linux. I didn't do really anything but Linux for a little while. So, and then from there, I kind of just to talk about the importance of networking. The same company where I was a Linux engineer, they had an opening for penetration tester. I happened to reach out to the applications manager. The web application testing manager, the hacking manager, if you will, and just kind of said, "Hey, man, just want you to know I'm interested. I'm driven." I had reached out before the position was open and said, "I'm wanting to go that direction. Can you help me get there?" And he said, yeah. So we'd already kind of had a bit of a relationship for about 6 months prior to that, and that was very, very helpful. So when the position opened, I mean, I had already been studying. I had gone through the PWK course, which is kind of it's a penetration testing course. It's aimed at teaching you Kali. So all said and done, I mean, it was definitely a multi-year process, and I feel like there's being in the right place, the right time, reaching out to people proactively and saying, "Hey, you're where I want to be. Teach me how to get there." I think that was also really, really helpful.
Okay. So of course, there's a couple of things I picked out in that, right? The work ethic, you know, again, some people think they should just get it, right? I want it, so give it to me.
Yeah.
How many hours a week would you say you studied, you know, after working and helping taking care of the family, right? Then you got
Yeah.
to study.
So for me, it was a mix. I probably I cracked 100 hours a week quite a few times during that stretch. I wish I were exaggerating, but I had 2 and sometimes 3 jobs I had, 4 kids, and I made, but before Cerner, when I was working kind of lower level help desk, especially, I mean, it was just didn't pay all that great. So I took a lot of side jobs. I did some professional writing and stuff like that. I probably studied about a good 30 hours a week between studying and homework and stuff like that. I took usually between 24 and 36 hours. Full time is 15. So I bit off a lot. And man, I had a lot of sleepless nights. I had nights, not often, but every now and then I have a night where I just work straight through the night because that's what it took. That's what it took to keep the lights on. And that's what it took to kind of, help elevate and give my kids a better life. But I probably worked 7 days a week for a good 2 straight years, where I think I might have had 1 or 2 days off for a holiday or something. It was a lot. It was almost to the point of, I would even say, borderline obsessive at times, just because I really wanted to be out of that situation. I really wanted to be out of debt, out of the constant trap. And the more than I'd probably ordinarily share, but we had our lights turned off at one point in time, and I was like, man, I can't have my kids come home from school and live like that, I mean, so it was really just whatever. I kind of developed that mentality of whatever it took. I was going to make sure that there was always food on the table and the rent and light bill was paid. So, and then looking ahead, also realizing that, I could have taken those 30 hours and maybe 20 of them I could have put towards a job, another dead end job that may have paid 10 or 12 bucks an hour, but it would not have got me any further. I mean, you can stay waiting tables or whatever forever, but if you're not looking ahead, saying, okay, it's good that I'm taking care of the here and now, but how do I look ahead a little bit? How do I elevate? How do I make 15? If I'm making 12 an hour now, how do I go make 15? If I'm making 15, how do I make 20? Kind of, that was the approach that I always took, was that I'm never content with where I am right now.
Well, yeah, when you were talking about your job progression, right? You work at a position, you pretty much learn what you needed to learn, or all that you could learn, then you move on to the next one, and then the next one, and that's just part of, developing your professional career, gaining your knowledge base. And then also, obviously, you and I, as we've stated, worked together at one point. but in maintaining those relationships, one of the key things I think you said that I like to point out is that when you were at the place after, I guess, after Cerner,
Hmm.
you were doing some administration stuff, but you knew that they had a security penetration testing, I guess, arm inside of there, right? So you
Oh,
took it upon
yeah,
yourself to make sure that it was that other individuals knew that that was an interest, right? So it's planting the seed. It's working hard. It's executing on the tasks that's given to you in your current role,
yeah,
which for those of you who may not know, bubble up, right? You do good things and really back up your boss and make your boss look good. That news travels, right? So as you
yeah,
plant your seeds throughout an organization, trying to get to the role that you want, obviously you got to you got to make sure you knocking the role that you're hired for out of the park. But planting seeds, maintaining relationships,
yeah.
um, obviously you've done that.
I've certainly tried
Definitely.
to, and I I think relationships are extremely important. I think reputation is very, very important. Word travels, and but I finally got to a point to where I'm getting paid per year and not per hour anymore. That's not for me was not a time to let off the gas pedal. That was a time to really maximize the value and the opportunity of what I'd had there, and tried to build relationships, build a reputation, being the guy who you can hand something off to and know that it's just going to get done and get done right. So
That's right, man. Absolutely. You got to execute. You got to get things done, young
yeah.
folks. So let's talk about some of the skill sets. In your opinion, what are some of the personality traits that would make an individual? We say that may lead to an individual being more successful as a security professional, engineer, pen tester, what have you.
Yeah. So I think one of the most important things in security. Now I probably differ a little bit from other people on this one. Um, Give me 1 second. I'm sorry, Aaron.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had son in the background. I was trying to get a little loud. I had to tell him. Um,
No, that's okay, man. It's like we say, working, right? It's after 5 for us on the Friday, and we're still after it. So
yeah, yeah. So
our audience understands.
yeah, I think for me the most important thing, or one of the most important things, there's several, I guess, being able to work with other people, and it sounds very, very simple, but
Yeah.
security is often the team of no. Hey, we want to do this. No. Well, we want to do this thing where we no. So you can't be that guy. If you try to shut everything down all the time, it doesn't look good. It's very difficult to work with. So I try to really. I've always tried to be the yes, but okay, we have a problem where you want to do something that's kind of unsafe or purchase maybe some software that's unsafe. Let me find a way to wrap a compensating control around that. Let me find a way to say yes. Help me enable your business in a way. Let's work together. Let's kind of do some brainstorming to figure out how we can say yes to this. And kind of taking that problem solving approach and backing away from the well, no, I'm not going to do that because it's unsafe and I'm right and you're wrong. It's really easy for engineers, especially. And I've been guilty of this too. I mean, I'm far from perfect. Believe me, I still get this way a little time every now and then. But it's really easy to get locked into the I'm the engineer and what I say is right, and you just haven't seen it my way yet. So let me explain to you why I'm right. And that doesn't work. That really does not work. Even if you are right, it still doesn't work. You still have to kind of pull yourself out of that right-wrong mentality and realize, man, there's a world with a lot of angles. There's a lot of different angles, and you can choose any angle you want. But if you choose the angle of I'm right, you're wrong, you're not going to be successful. So soft skills are really important. One of the ones that I really missed early in my career that I'm learning the value of now as a leader, but wish I had more of as an engineer, was empathy. I used to kind of have this approach of if somebody messed something up and had caused extra work, I'd be like, well, I'm sorry you did that to yourself, And now I'm like, man, I've done that. It sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. What can I do to help? How can I best support you?
Right.
And I think empathy is very rare in technology professionals in general. Maybe, I don't know about more or less so in security, but it's something that's really lacking in security a lot of the time. And that's something that I think will help somebody be really successful. There's also a lot of technical skills going above and beyond. I think really having a curiosity for how things work really helps. Trying to understand, okay, when I click here, it does this, but why? Why does it do that? What configuration item makes it do that? What coding makes this do that? I mean, the curiosity is really, really important. I would say even one of the top attributes that I look for when I look for hiring new people, young people, or people who've been doing it for 20 years, doesn't matter to me. I look for people who are curious. I look for people who spend time in their off hours learning because they really enjoy it. They're passionate about it. They have their home labs and they're working on stuff that has nothing to do with their day job. They're coding in Python and maybe their job is nothing to do with coding. I don't know. I think all of those kind of are really, really important. I think having strong analytical skills are good, but you can learn analytical skills. You can't learn to not be a jerk to other people quite so easily. So, yeah.
No, I love it, man. Great answers. I'm trying to think if there's anything else before we wrap up. So your current role now, we talked about Army, help desk, engineering. So what is your current role now?
My current role now is I'm director of cybersecurity for the largest hospital in the Kansas City area. So yeah, I've been there for about a year and a half now. Well, actually a little over, creeping up on the 2-year mark. Started as manager there. I worked as manager after about 6 months, moved up to assistant director, and then I was acting director for about a year, and then was recently promoted to full director just a couple weeks ago, actually. So
yeah, I was about to say, I didn't know. So congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks. It's
at our next lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I have and my responsibility has not really changed much over the last year and a half. My title has changed, but functionally my role has not. It's been identical the entire time. It's just one of those things where you kind of gravitate towards. You see problems, you solve them. So I had a lot of, when I was acting director, I reported directly to a VP. So it was kind of a weird situation there, but we kind of came in and said, hey, I like what you're doing. I don't really want to hire somebody between us that would take this a different direction. So I said, well, you're not going to get any argument from me, right? I mean, I'm not going to push you on that one. So.
Okay. Awesome. Well, with that, I think we'll wrap it up here. Again, Mark, I appreciate your time sharing with our audience, your journey in IT and how you ended up in the cybersecurity space, and what your grind was like with the sacrifices you had to make. I think hearing your story will help a lot of other individuals. So with that, everyone, again, I appreciate you for tuning in. Again, this is Aaron Brooks, Cascade Media Group, IT, Tech in Motion, and you guys have a great one. See you on the next video.
This program is brought to you by Computerized Auto Search.